Okay, so it is currently 9 a.m. back at the desk now. Just went out for a run. Normally we go for a run in the mornings from about 7:30 to about this time. So used to start my days a lot earlier before, but found that starting at 9 a.m. is probably best for now for me. Constantly kind of changing up routines, but anyway, we're gonna kind of dive into the day here. So just to kind of give a brief background, my main role in the agency right now is mainly overseeing sales and doing audits for prospects. So when leads come into us, whether that be through a referral, inbound, whether it be through ads, it would be my job to obviously lead the sales process and then do an audit for that brand. So generally how our sales process works is we'll just have a discovery call with the brand just to find out whether we're actually going to be a good fit for each other. If we feel that is going to be a good fit, we'll carry out an audit. In that audit, we'll do a deep dive into their account, look at their retention stats, look at their Klaviyo account, their email, SMS, look at other retention channels as well, such as direct mail, maybe WhatsApp if they're a European brand. So that's generally what I would kind of do. So normally when I get to the desk each day, I normally have my day planned out the night before. So what I use is this Kindle Scribe. I write into that every night before clock off for the day. The reason why I do that is because it's really nice to just get to the desk with your day planned out in advance. You're kind of just a bit ahead of the curve. It means that you get to your desk in the morning, you're not really thinking about, what am I going to do? What do I prioritize? It's already kind of done. And generally what I'll do is from about 9, so let's say 9 a.m. to 10:30, and then from about 11 to 12, I'll normally do like the highest priority tasks for the day. So because my role is in sales, my co-founder Jordan is kind of leading marketing and hiring. So basically as the kind of head of sales, I guess, or the person who is taking responsibility for that, my main roles, my highest ROI tasks are of course doing audits for brands, reaching out to leads. But I also want to stress as well that even though I am responsible for the sales side of the business, growing an agency or growing any kind of business is just about keeping your current customers or clients happy as it is getting new leads. And it's much easier to obviously put a lot of effort into retaining a client as it is to try and go out and get a new one. Now that's not to say that we're not trying to get new clients, of course. Just want to say that we're not really neglecting that side of the business either. It's incredibly important. We're just after Black Friday. It's the 9th of December now, so we just had, the end of Cyber Week, so it's slightly cooling off a small bit, but the work doesn't really finish from a client perspective because we do have holiday sales, especially as well for supplement and health brands coming into January. We'll have a lot of like New Year, New Me kind of promotions. And you'll kind of notice as well, consumer behavior kind of changes depending on what like industry you're in almost overnight. So as soon as New Year's Eve or New Year's Day happens, people obviously are thinking about their health, they're thinking about their well-being, they're thinking about the whole New Year's resolution thing. So generally like January and February can be almost better than November, December for some health brands. So obviously still kind of really busy, but that's where we're kind of at. But anyway, going back to kind of routines and stuff. So generally I've done a lot of playing around with routines before. Maybe a year, 2 years ago, I used to get up at maybe 10 to 6 in the morning, 6 o'clock. I'd start work for 6:30 and then I'd work, get all my work done. Basically, I'd have nearly my whole day finished by 11 a.m. Well, I don't mean finished, but like all the kind of main tasks. What I found for myself, actually interestingly enough, I did a chronotype test. I would strongly recommend you do one of these to figure out what times of days you're most likely to have the most energy. So there's 3 options. Not options, but there's 3 possibilities in which you could be, at least as far as I know. There's obviously the early bird, there is I think the third bird, or I think it's called lark, and then there's the night owl. So everyone's kind of familiar with early bird and night owl. I kind of thought I was an early bird, so I thought that I would be most productive at like 6 a.m, 7 a.m in the morning. After I did a few chronotype tests based off of some advice a mentor gave me, I realized I was actually in the middle. So it's actually that third bird thing, the lark thing. And essentially what was happening was I was starting work at like 6 a.m in the morning and I'd be absolutely fried by like 3 p.m. I couldn't do any more work, or I could do work, but I just couldn't do it to a very productive standard. That's mainly because like we have a lot of US clients. They don't wake up until 3 p.m. right here. Right now I'm in Milan. So yeah, there's a bit of a time difference there. So obviously there's still a lot of communication that has to be done after that time. So yeah, I figured out that getting the exercise done between 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning, getting to the desk then for 9, that has been the best routine for me. But again, that might change in 6 months' time. And I do find that when you kind of switch up that routine every 6 months, whatever that may be, it kind of adds a bit of freshness to your kind of day, to your routine, whatever that may be. I wouldn't say I have a very stringent morning routine. I'm not like the type of guy who goes to the sauna, goes red light sauna, goes hiking up mountains in the morning. Nothing like that. It's really simple. Just get some exercise, get some coffee. Since I've moved to Italy, I've become a bit of a fan of the espressos, but I have a double espresso this morning. I think some people try to like kind of overcomplicate morning routines, and yeah, it definitely doesn't need to be done for sure. Just, I suppose, get up early, get active. If you can get active in the morning, some people prefer the evening, and just get to work really. Don't try to procrastinate. Even now, starting work at 9 a.m. in the morning, I feel like it's a bit late, but I found for my energy levels it's definitely the best for sure. So what I'm going to do now is I'm probably going to just go into a deep work block. If you haven't read Deep Work by Cal Newport, I would strongly recommend, but I've definitely been following that kind of process since I actually started business, really, because I read that book very early on. But if you haven't read that book, if you're not familiar, it just basically means blocking off your time in the morning or even in the evening, whenever you have the most energy. So again, do that chronotype test, figure that stuff out. But for me, it's generally in the morning, around 9 a.m, 8 a.m, 9 a.m, 10 a.m. That's kind of like my most productive time. So generally I'll do a deep work block. Again, that's probably going to be auditing accounts. It could be following up with leads. It could be building SOPs as well. Right now I'm building out an SOP for actually doing audits for a company as well. So basically everyone can do an audit of a prospect who comes in. And now also it's going to be really valuable for our account managers as well, so they can actually audit all of their current accounts. Now they can't do this, but it's always good to get someone else's process and way of doing things. So that's kind of like the things I'll be kind of working on at this time of day. Now generally what I'll do is I won't really take any meetings until about like 12 p.m, maybe 1 p.m, purely so I can just get that work done. I'm not getting distracted or any of that kind of stuff during the morning. It's just pure focus. So right now I'm going to crack into a deep work block and I'll see you on the next clip. Okay, so now this morning, I'm actually going to put a little bit of time into recording some YouTube videos because it's kind of been a while since I've actually like consistently started posting there. It's been something I've been kind of bad with, to be honest. Been quite consistent in a lot of other aspects of my life, in other areas of business, like whether it be exercise, running, training for ultra marathons, training for marathons, all that kind of stuff. Content has just been one that I've been quite bad with, to be honest, and it's definitely something I need to get better at. But what I'm doing this morning is I've actually realized that I'm going to make a full email marketing course, so Klaviyo email marketing course. So it should be out pretty soon, to be honest, if not out already. And essentially what we're going to do here is cover all of the pillars of email marketing. So that's going to be like number one, setting up your Klaviyo account. What is email marketing in the first place, I guess? Why it's valuable, how it can help offset, rising acquisition costs, but then kind of getting into the nitty gritty. So like how to grow your list, how to send out campaigns, segmentation, flows, deliverability, with a load of like email examples and stuff as well. I'm not sure how long this would be, probably could be like a couple of hours, but what I'm doing this morning is I'm actually recording an introduction to that video. And what I'll need to do there as well is I'll probably need to like record transitions between each section as well. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. So if I flip the camera, you'll see here that I'm building this on Gamma. What I've done here is I've just kind of like included some results that we've gotten for clients, picture of me meeting some clients as well in Vegas, what we're going to cover, why email marketing matters, getting started with Klaviyo basics, all of that good stuff. So I'm going to crack into that right now, and yeah, hopefully I'm not too rusty with the content.
One eternity later.
Okay, so finished up doing a bit of YouTube videos there for the morning. It's now probably nearly like 1 o'clock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just step outside and go to a cafe, just get some coffee. Even though we have coffee back in our apartment, it's kind of nice to just get out for a walk and get a bit of fresh air, I guess. Got the YouTube done. Just kind of wanted to share a bit more about like our agency, because I don't think I shared this on YouTube before, but basically I ran an agency previously called Gen Z Media, and I've been running that probably up until June of 2024. But myself and a good friend of mine who also ran a email agency, we both made the decision to merge companies. So that was a bit of a process, to be fair. It's something that we were thinking about for almost 12 months. So we put in a lot of legwork, a lot of the legal work had to be done. So definitely was a lengthy process, but I think it's definitely exceeded expectations from all parties really. So like team members, both myself and Jordan. And then we've really just rebranded, or merged and rebranded, to Retention for Brands. Reason being is because email isn't enough anymore. And obviously you need ancillary retention channels, especially at the upper echelons of ecom as well. Like, you know, for your high 8-figure, 9-figure brands, it's important to not just have email and SMS, but also have, again, as I said, things like direct mail, things like WhatsApp marketing, things like, you know, making sure that they have quiz funnels, subscriptions on lock. So there's a lot more that goes into it outside of email and SMS, but we're just walking up to the coffee shop here. This one is actually a pretty popular one around here. Really, really small. And you think being in Milan in Italy, you will be spoiled for choice in terms of the coffee you can get. But yeah, it seems to be the main one in this area. But honestly, every single Saturday I come down here and there is just queues going out the door. But we're going to jump in here now, get a coffee and go back to the desk pretty soon. So yeah, got the coffee secured anyway. I was actually just thinking when I was in the coffee shop as well that I've had a lot of resistance kind of recording these types of videos, like day in a lifestyle, kind of vlog style. Main reasons being is because I was thinking, like, you know, my day to day is actually pretty similar. It's pretty boring, at least in my eyes, because the structure is very, very similar day to day. You're kind of speaking again with different clients, different team members, different kind of projects, different solutions to kind of come up with. So there is variance in that regard, but there could be days, some days, I wouldn't say more often than not, but they definitely do creep up where I could be spending the majority of my day at the laptop. Now, I do try and not do that all the time, but sometimes you have to do it. We are off the busiest period of the e-commerce calendar there because of BFCM. That was literally like, God, was it a week ago? Can't even remember. But those kind of times do require you to be at the laptop a bit more, be there for your clients, be there for your team. But funnily enough, myself and my co-founder Jordan were kind of talking about how smooth our Black Friday went. The client results were absolutely amazing. We've had some clients who broke 1 million in a month for the first time. We've had some clients break 1 million in a day for the first time, which is insane, unbelievable. So yeah, clients are super happy, but we're just really fortunate to have an exceptionally good team, which is, you know, down to training, but down to obviously the individuals that we've hired as well. So maybe I'll record a video another time talking about hiring, but at the same time, it's not really my domain in the business, although I do have a very good insight into what's going on there. For the rest of the day now, I need to basically just like jump into Slack, see if anyone needs me for anything. But again, going back to the team thing, you know, when you have a good team, you're not really needed for much things, for many things, but I'll go back in, see if anyone needs me for anything. I do have a call with a team member, so I have to take that. But the beauty of days like today, being Tuesday, myself and Jordan actually decided there not long ago that we were going to block off Tuesdays and Thursdays completely from calls. However, we do have one exception today. So there's always, well, not always, but there's sometimes going to be exceptions to that little rule that we set. So yeah, we'll have that call later. And then for the evening, I'm not entirely sure, I can't even remember what I put in my diary, but I know there is something in there. So we'll crack into that. I'll record going through the process of that as well. And anyway, we'll see you in a sec. Okay, so now that we're back at the desk, I'm about to dive into Slack, see what's in store. Don't think there's going to be huge amounts, to be fair. But again, just going back to the team situation that I've been explaining there on the last clip. So if you're watching this, you're probably like wondering, okay, like what kind of team structure do you have? So right now, I think we have about 30 team members. So we have team members based across like Europe, North America, Asia. And generally our team structure is we have myself and Jordan, who are the co-founders. We have a COO, we have a head of delivery. Then we have basically account managers. So the account managers' roles are to basically manage the client relationship, oversee strategy, and on their team, so each account manager will have on their team a copywriter, a designer, and a technician as well. Yeah, I love our technician team. I love all of our team, but our technician team are absolute wizards at email marketing. Like at Klaviyo, they know every single thing about that platform, like way more than I know or will ever know. So it's really, really impressive. But that's not to say that I'm favoring the techs over anyone else on the team. It's just I really respect their level of knowledge. So yeah, that's generally how the team is structured. So as I was kind of saying, I don't really have any calls today, but we do have a lot of internal calls and of course external calls with clients or with external vendors. But generally we will have internal calls such as team calls. So every Monday we have a team call. We'll also have a C-suite call as well, where it'll be myself, Jordan, and our COO. And then we will have some internal client calls. So without the client there, but just the team who is dealing with that client may have certain internal calls, especially when they're a new client, when they've just been onboarded, just to make sure that we can move with speed and precision on those accounts. So generally, yeah, that's kind of structure there. Of course, on my end, I'll be taking sales calls. We also have calls with our CFO to go over financials. So yeah, that's the kind of structure. And I only really take calls like Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and I try to batch all of them as much as I can on a Wednesday. So I'm just after diving into Slack, and yeah, it's safe to say like there's nothing, no major fires, no nothing. All that we've kind of had to deal with essentially is we actually just signed a new brand, so a new client, and what we need to do is just make sure that we have the internal Slack channel set up there. Normally we would have this automated, so we actually use Zapier to do a lot of automations that we have in our agency. It's just this particular client, they're actually a bit different to our usual clientele. So we're actually doing a slightly different onboarding process for them. And it's just like one exception. We rarely do that. It's like once in a blue moon, we'll do something like that. So essentially our COO just needed to create an internal Slack channel there. So that's pretty much it. Also, another thing that we're working on right now is my co-founder Jordan is coming up with a new offer. So right now he's actually messaging me about this offer. He's built out the new doc for it. Of course, because we're co-founders, we're messaging each other like literally every day. Obviously, like more than every day, every hour, every minute. But obviously, there's like a very clear symbiosis there between two of us because he's doing marketing, I'm doing sales. It's very, very close together. But the beauty is like Jordan's very, very good at, copywriting, really, really good at that. So that's something that like I do like, but I'm not as probably good as Jordan would be. And vice versa with sales. Like, so I would feel I feel very comfortable on sales calls because I actually come from door-to-door experience. So I did door-to-door sales before. So it's something that I'm just used to, and I'm really happy. Like, I love doing sales. And funnily enough, like I know a lot of sales guys, and like they'll often be talking about like how to structure your sales call and like this is the perfect script and blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, sales is literally just a conversation. That's all it is. Someone just has a problem. You may have the solution, and you're just there trying to figure out, whether this is going to be a fit or not. I've never really been a fan of like high pressure sales tactics. That's not really how we like to do business. I know some people might be different. But that's just like, how we like to do it. And it's been working for us so far. And I think, it starts off the client relationship on a like a really good note if you're not being like a pushy salesperson, if you're not like pushing, trying to get them to buy now. If you just build a trust, give them the space, showcase your expertise, showcase your value, the right brands and the right clients will come to you. You don't necessarily have to push them over the line to buy your product or service. I believe if your product or service is good enough, it will sell itself. And if you're a trustworthy person and if you're polite and if you're kind, you don't really have to be using these stupid high pressure sales tactics stuff. And it just kind of, I never really agree with them, to be honest. Definitely not for our line of business anyway. Maybe if you're selling something else, maybe it's different, but anyway, that's just my 2 cents on the whole like selling process. There's something I kind of want to chat about while I'm kind of just working away here a little bit. Well, obviously it's not focus work, but I'm just pulling up my task list. But when I was kind of just diving into Slack there, I just realized and just caught myself with, I suppose, reminding myself that I had this limiting belief before. And it's something I'm constantly like actively trying to work on, is the fact that you as the founder do not need to be there all of the time for problems to be solved, provided that you have a good team. Of course, that's the caveat. But, just after going into Slack, there's no major issues. I see the team are handling things, being fired over to clients, projects are moving along, everything is moving quite smoothly. And it's definitely something I kind of struggled with more so like earlier on in my journey, where I felt like I had to be doing everything and that like I could do it the quickest, I could do it the best, and it's just such a limiting way of viewing things. We've truly, like, even personally myself, have like really broken that limiting belief by putting more trust in the team, because funnily enough, like they can actually do all of these roles much better than I can, because obviously I have a focus in sales as well, and I have a focus on onboarding new brands. That I can't have my focus split between, solving technical Klaviyo issues and doing kind of my main role, I guess. Funnily enough, like some account managers have even said, because we had some feedback forms that we ran previously, some of them have said that like they just want myself and Jordan to like not be involved in a lot of the processes, because like they just don't want us stepping on their toes, not in a negative way, but more so like just leaving them do their thing. So it's something that we have actively been trying to do quite a lot, and yeah, it's really, really cool to see like the business kind of like run. I wouldn't say like necessarily without us there right now, but projects are moving along quite nicely, which is really, really cool to see. Okay, so it is now nearly 4 p.m. Had some food, got coffee earlier, jumped into Slack, jumped in to do a few other projects as well. I wouldn't even call it projects, just a few kind of tasks. But I just did want to quickly go back to that whole time blocking thing, and like the whole thing about working with timers is because like when I actually just even reflect on today, it's not even 4 p.m. yet. And to be honest, I had most of my tasks finished by about maybe 2 to 3 p.m. But already today, we've gotten 3 YouTube videos recorded. Actually 4 really, if you include this. Well, that'll be kind of like later on today. Sent over a Loom video to our COO and one of our account managers on this new client that we're taking over. Well, I wouldn't say taking over. We're working with them, not taking them over. But yeah, just sharing a bit of context about that brand, because like what's really important in the sales process is that like the transition from selling to delivery has to be seamless. So like context is king in this scenario. So I do spend a lot of my time normally when we get new brands coming in to give the team the context that they need. What's the client like? What kind of personality do they have? What are they looking to do? Like what kind of goals do they have? Interesting enough, like you think every single brand wants to increase their revenue, like obviously, but some brands might have, let's say, a deliverability issue with their email, so they're not landing in the inbox. And some brands might have a low returning customer revenue. Some brands may have an LTV problem, so their customers over the space of their lifetime are not spending enough money. So it just really does depend on like where that brand is. And it's really important that our account managers, our team, our COO, they have like the context that they need to provide the best service possible for our clients. But I did want to touch on the audit process. So I kind of like briefly mentioned it in the video maybe earlier this morning that the audit process is something that I am actually SOPing now. For anyone who doesn't know, an SOP is a standard operating procedure. It's basically documentation that you can use in your business to teach people how to do that task. So in this case, what I'm trying to do is document the process of me going into an account, auditing it and presenting it in a way that looks like super professional and presenting it in a way that's going to like provide the most value to the prospect, to the potential client that you're speaking to. We have gotten like some good feedback on our audits before, like really, really good feedback. I may be biased, but I truly believe that we have one of the best auditing processes in the industry. By the way, if you want a free audit, click the link down below in the description. You can get an audit done by myself, but I truly do believe that. One reason I think for that is because like we do spend a lot of time on these audits. We have tried to speed up the process using AI in certain aspects, not all, but that's mainly for presentation more so than like actually diving into the account. But yeah, it does take quite some time. What I've kind of seen a lot of other companies do, and I don't mean to be kind of like shitting on other companies as well, by the way, but it is just what I've noticed that like a lot of them will just have like generic advice like your email design is bad, or like you need to start testing subject lines in your emails, and like that's really not going to move the needle, to be honest. You really do need to be focusing on the big needle movers. So for me, from an email marketing perspective, and I suppose a retention perspective, that kind of just means like, it kind of depends on what brand you're running, right? So I'm going to pick like a supplement brand, just nice and easy, has a high repeat purchase nature built into the business, into the product, right? So with that, you'd be really looking for their core flows to be converting, well. That does depend, of course, on industry, but in the supplement industry, you'd have like different benchmarks that you're kind of like looking to hit by different, like, depending on what flow you're looking at. Yeah, your core flow is really going to be your welcome series, so that like welcomes people when they sign up through the pop-up. If you're abandoned cart and you're abandoned checkout, so that's like capitalizing on like really high intent, people just stopped on the website at the checkout. Then you have your browse abandonment and site abandonment. So your browse and site, they just kind of retarget people who are either viewing products in the browse case, or else like just active on the website in the site abandonment case. And then obviously your post-purchase journey, your customer win back. You're kind of really looking at them to be like absolutely dialed in. So that's like one big factor, and making sure that they're hitting benchmarks. The next thing then you're going to be looking for is campaign volume. It sounds so cliche, but like brands just need to be sending more emails. It's just as simple as that. We've had some clients over BFCM weekend, we've sent like, north of 15 emails in the day, and we didn't really see unsubscribe rates be impacted any more than they would usually be. There wasn't any big major spikes there. So that was a really interesting takeaway for us, for our team during BFCM. But a lot of brands just simply aren't sending enough emails. And like 9 times out of 10, the more emails you send, the more money you're going to make, but you need to make sure you're doing it in a way where not one person is getting, an email every single day. You need to segment it out. So you need to make sure that you have the correct segmentation in place. You're reaching out to non-buyers, you're reaching out to buyers, you're reaching out to lapsed customers, so people who came before, they didn't come back in quite some time. In a supplement brand's case, if they have a subscription, you want to make sure you're reaching out to people who have had a subscription but they cancelled and haven't returned. So there's lots of different segments you can use, but I don't think there's really any excuse for not sending out like, close to an email a day for most brands. But again, it doesn't make sense for certain brands as well. And generally what we'll do is we'll try and play around with that volume to see like what's the optimal range there. And the way we find that optimal range is like how many emails can we send before we start seeing diminishing returns in terms of the revenue that we get from those campaigns. And also as well, like we don't want deliverability metrics to spike as well, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be like losing people on your list either. So that's really important. But yeah, that brings me on to the next part, which is deliverability. So honestly, we've gotten into some 9-figure brands accounts before, and like their deliverability has been, for lack of a better way of putting it, an absolute shit show. If it's really bad, it can take months to like, it can take like 3 to 4 or 5 months to actually truly get it to a point where it would be, should that problem have not come up in the first place. So should be taken very, very seriously, because it doesn't really matter what, you know, copy, design, strategy you have. If nobody's getting your email, if it's not landing in the inbox, in other words, it's like, if it's in spam, you're not selling anything. Like, you just aren't, and everything else goes out the window. So all that creative work, all that strategy, it's just gone down the toilet. So that's obviously really important. And then the last part that we would kind of look at before we kind of like move on to other ancillary stuff, you know, kind of add-ons, that would just kind of depend on what size of brand you are. But the last thing you kind of look at is list growth. So how quickly is this list growing? Is there opportunity to grow that faster? It's one of the lowest hanging fruits in any e-commerce brand is like testing your pop-up form. So testing offers. So like, you know, testing 10% off versus $10 off, or testing a free gift with their first purchase, or testing cashback. So if they place an order, they get cashback on their next order, something we've tested out recently. I've seen kind of mixed results with that, but kind of is brand specific. But they're the kind of core things that we would look at. Then if you're a brand of a certain size, and like, to be fair, a certain size just really does depend on the context of the brand, like how big their list is, how big their subscription base is, are they offering a subscription on a monthly basis? There's so many factors, but when you do get to that, like, let's say certain level, you will be looking to obviously expand other channels. So for brands based in the EU, WhatsApp can be a great channel to use. Also as well, Postpilot can be great. So like direct mail, again, no affiliation here. We just use it for clients. We've seen absolutely fantastic results. I know there are some other options out there as well, but for some reason their name is completely slipping my mind. But direct mail can be absolutely fantastic. Also as well, we would kind of look at like, you know, is there a quiz funnel here? Is that another opportunity to support acquisition and obviously retention? And of course, improve the amount of data that we have on customers. You know, is there surveys in the business? Like, you know, are you doing a post-purchase survey? Are you understanding like where, of course, like where people are coming from? But that, you know, you should probably know that data anyway. But like, just kind of understanding like what almost stopped them from making a purchase. Surveying like non-buyers, like, why haven't you made a purchase yet? We've actually done this recently for a really good client of ours, and we found some really, really interesting data there. You know, things such as people saying that they didn't trust the brand, or they would like to see more reviews, even though like a lot of marketing includes reviews. They have 50,000 reviews, and they also have 1 million followers across social media. But yet customers are still saying that they didn't actually trust the brand. They didn't know if it was trustworthy or not. So you can't always assume, and you have to kind of be running these surveys to actually really figure out this information for, you know, for sure. So yeah, anyway, kind of getting back to that audit process though, have most of that done, to be honest. The last piece of the puzzle that I need to do is actually record myself auditing an account live. But we have everything else there. So we have like kind of all of those common pitfalls. I might actually try and pull it up here on the laptop so I can kind of go into it. But we're just kind of like outlining what are the common trends that we've seen across all audits. This is where AI can become really useful as well. Obviously, we try to be very, very careful with client data and stuff. But normally we would have our kind of own notes, and we kind of use that and put it into ChatGPT and see like, what are the common things popping up here across all of these brands? Like, what's actually going on? And for some reason, I can't actually find it. But while I'm trying to find that there, probably notice I'm very bad at multitasking. Oh yeah, I remember where I have it. Never mind. So yeah, we have a little audit thing here. So we have something, but you'll see here we have some stuff about like presenting the audit. So this is more so like on like, you know, how to actually speak and how to like, you know, speak, you know, using data rather than like using sales tactics or anything like that. Stuff about like communication and building rapport, the presentation structure and flow, common mistakes to watch out for. So these are like a load of common mistakes here. You can see we have it broke down by flows. So in the welcome series, like these are things that can go wrong. We have the abandoned cart and checkout and so on and so forth. So this goes through like all the flows, basically like what are the common things that we've noticed doing audits on those flows, and then same for campaigns, like what are the common things that we're seeing go wrong with campaigns. Yeah, so that's essentially what we have. All the common pitfalls, everything is in there. So someone can come in and like, you know, let's say you've never done an audit before, although like all of our account managers, all of our team members like will be very familiar in how to do this, but I'm kind of trying to build it in that frame. Like if you've never done an audit before, this is how you do it, and you can kind of go in and see like, okay, these are all the common pitfalls. So then like hopefully when you kind of go in, when this person or whoever this imaginary person is, when they go in and do an audit, they have this roadmap to work off of, so they're not starting from zero. But also one thing that's really important with SOPs as well, or like standard operating procedures, whatever you want to say, what's important is like not telling people to like, I better word this correctly, you do want people to follow SOPs, but you don't want someone to turn into an SOP monkey as well, where they don't actually think critically and think for themselves. So for example, what I mean by this is like, just because I have certain pitfalls, you know, listed down here, doesn't mean that there aren't more than those ones that I've just listed. So that's like really important, something that we try and instill on like all team members members as well is like critical thinking and think for yourself and like, you know, always question things as well, which is super important. But anyway, I have half an hour before the next call, so I'm going to stop this clip here. But yeah, that's pretty much everything in terms of audits and all that stuff. Okay, so you probably saw a clip there of myself and my co-founder Jordan. We jumped on a bit of an ad hoc call because if you remember earlier in the video, I was explaining that we are going to have this new offer for our current client base. We've never done it before, but we're really excited to offer this to kind of like a select few. We're only going to offer it if it makes sense, but it gives us an opportunity to add even more value to those businesses. And we're not really selling it in a hard way. We're just kind of like posing it to them. If they want to take it, that's absolutely fantastic. If they don't, that's totally fine as well. Nothing changes. So we were just kind of talking about that. I suppose like recapping on the day, we actually got through a lot, to be honest, even though it was more of a relatively quiet day as you know, as compared to some others. But I suppose if you kind of like look across the board, today we got some YouTube videos done, shared some context about that new client with our team, so that like obviously requires me to jump in, do a Loom video. That was about like 15 minutes kind of going through all of the context that I've kind of soaked up during that sales process. But yeah, so like remaining tasks now really for the day are, it's 6 o'clock right now, so I'm probably going to wrap up in the next hour. Don't always finish around 7 p.m. to be honest. Sometimes it could be quite later. Just depends on the type of season that you're in. But last task to do, really, I have to go back now, take the audit document. So we actually have a bit of kind of a presentation going through it. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put that into AI. So I've been using ChatGPT, as everyone, to be honest, unless you're living under a rock, of course. But it's actually kind of like a bit frightening how much context ChatGPT has on my life and my business. But we kind of use that for everything to basically like just second guess what we've done, as does, you know, a lot of people, I should say, to be grammatically correct. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to do right now. We're going to go into AI and see, can we spot any gaps with the way this is presented, or even if this is a good idea for us to do, even though we do think it is. But it's always good to have someone playing devil's advocate. In this case, it's going to be AI. But speaking of that, I do use AI for like almost everything in the business. Mainly, I would have different chats within my ChatGPT based off of whether that's operations, whether that's sales. It could be for audits, for doing audits for clients. It could be client communication. It could be, I don't know, marketing, absolutely anything like in terms of the business, you know, different business categories, we would kind of have that in there. And, you know, each chat has plenty, like so much context on like what we're doing as a business, like who our team members are. So yeah, like kind of sounds pretty straightforward. Like I know a lot of people are using it, but like if you're not using it in that way, you're definitely missing out, because like it's super good to have that context. For example, you know, we've uploaded all of our SOPs into ChatGPT. We've even built custom GPTs based off of our SOPs, based off of our communication standards. An example or a use case of that could be some of our account managers or some team members might find it harder to word things in messages better, you know, as well as other account managers can do it. So they can use our retention for brands communication ChatGPT, like a custom GPT, and they can go in there and kind of get like message templates just to kind of thought provoke, and like just to make sure that they have something that's, you know, worthy of sending to a client if it's an important message, of course. So we do have some account managers who use that. We also have some for service delivery as well. So we have ones trained up on deliverability best practices. We have some for like helping out with reporting. We have some for helping out with campaign ideas, campaign angles, and like reviewing emails as well. So we have kind of separate ones. We've found that if you have separate ones, so like rather than one like master, let's say custom GPT, when you keep the kind of like the goal of that custom GPT separate, we found the results to be a lot better in those cases. So that's just kind of what we found. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap up the day. So we'll do another hour of work, as I said. After that, it's probably just go to the couch, probably plan out the next day. To be honest, nothing too glamorous. We're going to plan out the next day, maybe watch a bit of TV, and then just take it easy for the rest of the evening. The exercise is done. That's kind of the beauty about doing it in the morning. But yeah, there you have it. That is a peek inside what a random day in my life running this retention agency looks like. You know, not every day does look like this, but to be fair, it's pretty straightforward. As I said, it's not as glamorous as some people make it out to be. You could probably notice just by this video that I didn't really leave my room here by my office too much throughout the day. But if you did enjoy this video, let me know down below in the comments. I haven't really created a huge bunch of this style of content before, so I'll be very curious to see what you think. And yeah, if you do like it, you want to see more videos like this, make sure to like and hit subscribe. And of course, if you are running an e-commerce brand and you're doing over 100K a month in revenue, book a call in the link down in the description. And as I said, I'll personally audit your account. To be honest, you don't have to be doing over 100K as well. We do have different offers depending on where you're exactly at. So that doesn't mean we cannot work with you unless you're doing 100K a month and above. So you can kind of take that out. So if you are running a brand, do make sure to click that link down below if you have any interest. And if not, no worries. I will catch you on the next video.